This is the most important question in the Bible. How are you going to handle Jesus, also known as the Christ? In the Christian world, he is a symbol, an evangelist who doesn't hesitate to express controversial views. However, at the age of 84, Pastor John, who was reviled by many and revered by millions, has finally acknowledged something we all suspected. Does this indicate a shift? Or is it the last word in a life full of dispute and faith? Let's get started. Do not avert your eyes, for what follows will compel you to reconsider all of your preconceived notions about this influential pastor. United States on American streets. Instead of being praised, they ought to be arrested. John, one of America's most well-known evangelists, grew up in Baytown, Texas, under modest but significant circumstances, before rising to become a worldwide religious figure. He was born on April 12, 1940, and was raised in a Christian home, where faith served as the cornerstone of daily existence. In addition to being a spiritual leader, his father, Pastor William Hagee, was a live example of his dedication to God. John remembers family get-togethers around the Bible in the evenings, when moral teachings were not only imparted, but also applied to day-to-day activities. He developed a strong faith and a desire to serve God here, which would be a guiding light for the rest of his life. In our generation, doesn't that sound ridiculous? What does meekness mean? Hagee's scholastic career started in local Texas schools, where he immediately showed brilliance and a strong determination. The meek are those who speak quietly. Following high school, he pursued a bachelor's degree in science at Trinity University in San Antonio. He continued his study after that, graduating from the University of North Texas with a master's degree in education. He was equipped for a fulfilling career in ministerial courses and a coalition of anti-Semitic countries, led by Russia, by virtue of his strong religious convictions and solid scholastic background. When John Hagee established a little church in San Antonio, in 1966, his career officially began. This was the beginning of his career, which would be a path filled with vision and passion. Through uplifting lectures and unwavering leadership, a flourishing community was established from a small initial group of believers. He established Cornerstone Church in 1975, which grew to be one of the biggest places of worship in the U.S. With more than 20,000 members and space for thousands to sit, Cornerstone Church serves as a center for education and culture in addition to being a place of worship. With great pleasure, Mount Hagee Ministries announces the realization of a goal I have held for half a century. In addition to serving as the church's head, he founded John Ministries, a company that uses radio and television to share the gospel. Millions of people throughout the world listen to his sermons on hundreds of radio and television stations. His strong religious and political convictions are demonstrated by the fact that he created Christians United for Israel Kufi, a potent movement in favor of Israel. Along with triumphs, Hagee's career has also been characterized by difficulties and disputes. But he overcame everything with unwavering resolve and unwavering faith, emerging as one of the most significant personalities in the world's Christian community. From his religiously influenced early years to his quest to leave a lasting legacy, John has made a lasting impression on contemporary religious history. The contentious route. John is more than just a clergyman. He is a contemporary prophet, a political figure, and a leader in contentious discussions. He has established a reputation as a strong evangelist and a steadfast supporter of conservative principles over decades of speaking. However, his outspoken remarks and strong beliefs have frequently put him at the heart of public controversy, where his remarks are praised and criticized. His interpretation of the Bible to relate it to world events is one of the most well-known debates. He stated that the Bible foretells the end times, and asserted in his 2006 book Jerusalem Countdown that Iran would start a nuclear war. In addition to shocking the religious community, this speech provoked heated discussions in political forums. Devout followers interpreted it as a heavenly warning that would help them get ready for the end of the world. Critics countered that he was using the Bible to incite hatred and terror against Islamic countries. They contended that in addition to being provocative, Hagee's prophecy increased hostilities between nations and religions. That was hardly the end of the public uproar. His comments regarding the Holocaust, one of the worst catastrophes in human history, in 2008 sparked even more uproar. He said that God's plan to help create the state of Israel included the Holocaust. The Holocaust reportedly sparked an international consensus that resulted in Israel's creation in 1948. His wording caused indignation, even though his intention might have been to respect Israel's institution. Hagee's statement was considered inappropriate and offensive to the suffering of millions of Holocaust victims by religious and political authorities as well as the Jewish community. His reputation and connections were severely damaged as a result of some of his longtime associates publicly distancing themselves. Human rights organizations and the LGBTQ+ community have strongly opposed his conservative beliefs, which go beyond his political and historical pronouncements. He publicly opposes same-sex marriage and fervently supports the traditional marriage between a man and a woman. Additionally, he views abortion as a crime against humanity and is not hesitant to condemn organizations that support women's rights. Social activists have targeted him because of his beliefs, believing that he embodies an antiquated, ultra-conservative mindset that is out of step with contemporary culture. There are serious repercussions from these disputes. His reputation has suffered in certain political and religious circles as a result of his startling remarks. To avoid being accused, several former allies now choose to stay out of the spotlight. These disputes, however, serve as a reminder to his devoted followers of his unwavering faith in the Bible. They see someone who is willing to stand up for God's will, even in the face of the most severe criticism, and who is not afraid to speak up when others are hesitant. Are there untold facets of John Hagee's life that the world is unaware of? However, beneath his unwavering faith and stirring sermons, in addition to being personal hardships, John Hagee's misfortunes serve as the final test of the faith he has always maintained. What caused such a powerful man to experience his most terrifying moments? Let's explore the realities that lie beyond the limelight, the power of faith, and the hidden nooks and crannies. Also had personal struggles behind the pulpit. He had some of the most difficult times in his personal life, even though he was the guy who transformed Cornerstone Church into one of the biggest churches in America. Moments that put his character, faith, and fortitude to the test. Hagee's first marriage to Martha Downing ended in divorce in 1975. Divorce was a huge shock to the congregation, as well as a personal failure for a pastor in charge of a strict Christian community. Hagee's career was in danger of collapsing due to the constant criticism he received, including from members of his own community. Not only was divorce viewed as immoral in the theological setting of the time, but it also had the potential to deprive a religious leader of all credibility. His ability to bounce back from this setback was questioned by many. Nevertheless, he rebuilt his life from the ashes of criticism. He married Diana Castro shortly after his divorce, and he has always referred to her as his biggest source of support and spiritual pillar. Diana was his companion in all ministry endeavors in addition to being his life partner. She restored trust and enabled him to carry out his evangelistic work with her unfailing love and support. Diana's presence enabled him to move over the hurt of the past and begin a new chapter in which his faith in God grew even more solid. Personal difficulties, however, did not stop there. In addition to fame, founding Cornerstone Church came with a great deal of strain. He was always held to high standards by the community, because he was the leader of a sizable church with thousands of members. He was in charge of upholding the reputation as a resolute leader, in addition to preaching biblical teachings. He might feel the weight of this pressure at times, yet never let his commitment to his goal be overshadowed by these difficulties. When he thinks back on the challenging periods, he consistently highlights how the hardships in life taught him important lessons about patience and humility. He once said that he realized more than ever, during the most trying times, that religion is about trusting in God, even when his plan is obscure, not about knowing all the answers. In addition to posing a challenge, his own suffering deepened his empathy for others experiencing comparable agony. John doesn't hesitate to talk about his prior weak points these days. During his sermons, a vulnerable yet sincere person replaces the image of an authoritarian pastor. He becomes more relatable as a result of this image, which also attracts congregation members. These sincere comments highlight the fact that even religious leaders experience periods of uncertainty. The most crucial thing, though, is to always have faith in God. John Hagee's own hardships are not only obstacles, they are evidence of the strength of faith. They have made him a source of inspiration for millions of people and a symbol of tenacity. His supporters see Hagee as more than simply a preacher. They see him as a guy who has overcome hardship to carry on with his spiritual journey. And that is the main reason why many who look up to him consider him a legend. However, what was different? Why would a pastor with a reputation for having strong beliefs suddenly become introspective? Was it the tumultuous years or the deep spiritual lessons that led him to this sudden turning point? More significantly, how will our perception of him change as a result of the news he is going to share? Keep listening, because what you are about to hear may reveal a secret no one ever thought existed. The acknowledgement. During a Sunday service earlier this year, Pastor John did something that really stunned his audience. Thousands of people gathered in the auditorium that day, anticipating the typical mix of conviction, clarity, and flaming emotion that defined his lectures. He was well known for his assured and forceful preaching style, and had long been a towering figure in the world of evangelical Christianity. What they heard, however, was a tone they had never heard before, a tone rooted in vulnerability and introspection, a sharp contrast to the forceful, uncompromising rhetoric they were used to. He started his speech by sharing his life's spiritual journey. "I have dedicated my entire life to discovering, researching, and analyzing the Bible's truth. But I want to talk from the heart today. We don't always understand God's plans right away. There are times when we have to acknowledge that some things are incomprehensible to humans." His comments lingered in the atmosphere. As everyone took in this shocking statement, there was a profound quiet in the room. This was a remarkable admission for a man who had spent decades unwaveringly relating biblical prophecies to current affairs. It was a revelation of deep spiritual and personal knowledge, rather than just a contemplation. Hagee's sermons were associated with certainty for many years. With his accurate interpretations of the Bible and his sure prophecies about how it related to the present, he was a ray of light for his followers. There was minimal opportunity for uncertainty or ambiguity in his preaching approach. However, at this point, he abandoned the image of a resolute preacher and entered the precarious position of being just a man of faith, a guy who was facing the same doubts, riddles, and questions as those seated in front of him. He admitted that his quest for clarity had occasionally caused him to lose sight of a more profound and fundamental component of faith, the awe-inspiring mystery of the incomprehensible. "But now I realize that faith is not always about having all the answers. Sometimes the greatest expression of faith is accepting the unknown. I have spent years poring over every detail in the Bible, trying to explain and uncover every truth. Faith means trusting that God knows, and that trust is enough," the speaker added. His voice, laden with decades of knowledge and leadership, struck a profound chord. His humility left the congregation speechless, enthralled with the change taking place in front of them. Hagee's remarks elicited a wide range of heated responses. Many audience members were moved and praised his bravery and honesty. They viewed his admission as a powerful illustration of the essence of faith itself, rather than as a sign of weakness. A reminder that a genuine connection with God is defined by trust, rather than assurance. "I was reminded that even the strongest among us experience doubt, and that's normal." When one attendee said, "I have never felt so connected to my pastor. We are human because of it." Others, however, were uneasy. Some saw Hagee's remarks as a rupture in the framework they had grown to depend on. They felt unprepared for this abrupt change, because his sermons of certainty had provided stability during uncertain times. His admission, according to some detractors, might erode the trust of people who relied on his infallible readings of the Bible. "We have looked to him for clarification for years. He is now urging us to welcome uncertainty. It's a challenging adjustment." A member of the congregation made a remark intended for academics and religious observers. Hagee's confession had a more profound impact. Near the end of his journey, a spiritual leader who had spent decades searching for truth discovered that faith is more powerful than knowledge. It was a remarkable time in his life. Some thought it was a powerful message for the upcoming generation of Christians, an invitation to approach the Bible with the openness of a curious heart and mind, rather than the rigidity of perfect conviction. They saw in his statements a deep shift in his view of faith, which is now more about the journey than it is about answers, more about trust than assurance. As he approaches his latter years, Hagee's admission might be a logical next step in his spiritual development. It appears that he is now looking for a sense of calm and acceptance in his own faith, after decades of bearing the burden of his public persona and the demands of being a well-known religious figure. He saw this as an act of self-reconciliation, as well as a turning point in his relationship with his flock. With a calm smile on his face, he left the pulpit as the ceremony came to an end. His eyes were filled with a sense of pleasure and serenity that many had never seen before as he waved to the assembly. A reminder that even the most resilient people are on their own path of faith and understanding. It was a moment of great compassion. It was a day that those in attendance will never forget. Also, it was a step in the direction of a more profound truth. In its simplest form, religion is about embracing the mystery of God's plan, rather than seeking explanations. Public response. In addition to shocking his church, Pastor John Hagee's latest disclosure has generated intense international debate. At the age of 84, a lifetime supporter in biblical prophecies and certainty has decided to highlight the complexity of faith. This change goes beyond personal limitations for a person of his caliber, revealing priceless insights into belief, religion, and leadership, where he has been followed for decades by thousands of people at Cornerstone Church. This realization was unexpected. It made him more relatable, according to many. Faith isn't about knowing everything, as one believer said. Hearing Pastor admit he doesn't have all the answers brings me comfort. It's about maintaining trust in the face of ambiguous explanations. These remarks provided a novel viewpoint for people used to Hagee's forceful and commanding preaching style, as if he were displaying a profoundly human aspect of himself. This is seen as a major turning moment by religious leaders, as well as the faithful. John has always been a symbol of religious certainty, said a young pastor. His recognition of the ambiguities in faith is a major lesson, reminding us, the next generation of leaders, that humility is at the heart of service. In academic circles, theologians have hailed this change as a turning point in modern theology, noting that Hagee's words reflect theological maturity, a reality every believer faces in their spiritual journey. This is a lesson for all of us. Faith is not just about what we know, but also about accepting what we cannot understand. They demonstrate that he has moved beyond absolute assertions to embrace the complexities of faith. The implications of this admission go beyond the religious and academic communities, touching on the fields of politics and international affairs. Perhaps this is a reminder that even the most resolute icons have to deal with the complexity of the world and their own beliefs. Hagee, the founder of Christians United for Israel, has been closely associated with conservative political views and U.S.-Israel relations. One political analyst asked whether Hagee's change in message would change how political leaders use faith as a tool. This admission provides a fresh outlook on faith for the next generation. One young churchgoer said during a conversation, "His words made me realize it's okay not to have all the answers. This teaches us that even the greatest figures face uncertainty, and that makes faith feel more real." When another, "Faith isn't a destination, but a journey. Love him or hate him." Pastor John is unquestionably a figure of immense influence. Hagee's change in message is more than just an admission. It's a reminder that faith isn't about imposing control or certainty, but rather about seeking, questioning, and learning to embrace mystery. It's a monumental step for him as well as for everyone looking for meaning in their faith. Though his books have influenced discussions, his sermons have inspired millions, and his support for Israel has solidified his place in religious and political history. John's journey of belief, controversy, and ultimately humility may be his greatest lesson, which comes at the age of 84. John reminds us that even the most determined people must face uncertainty. What do you think of his most recent admission? Please leave your thoughts in the comments section below. We'd love to hear from you. If you thought this video was compelling, please remember to like and share so your friends and family can see this inspirational tale. And maybe that's the truth we've long suspected, that even the giants of faith at their core are human. Finally, click on the videos that are currently showing on the screen to continue exploring more fascinating and inspirational stories. Thank you for visiting us, and we hope to see you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any riveting stories in the future.